The Bold and the Beautiful, Tuesday, July 29th. The Bold and the Beautiful, full episode breakdown, Tuesday, July 30th. Steffy's amnesia shakes LA, Liam faces a ghost from the past, and a hidden chapter is unlocked. The accident happened in seconds. Glass, steel, screaming brakes, and then silence. When Steffy Forrester woke up in the hospital, the world she knew was gone. Her memories, fractured and fogged, had erased the life she'd built. She didn't recognize the man holding her hand, begging her to remember his face. She didn't see a husband. She didn't see the father of her child. She didn't see Liam. What she did remember was someone else. A name she whispered in her sleep. A voice from a time long buried. A man no one knew, someone who predated everything. Forrester Creations, her marriage, her motherhood. A phantom from the years she had never spoken of. Her first love. A name she spoke over and over like a lifeline. Tomas. Liam stood frozen as she recoiled from his touch. Their son, confused and heartbroken, called out for her, but Steffy just looked at him with vacant eyes. Her body remembered how to speak. Her heart beat. But her mind had shut the door on everything that mattered to him. And worse, she had locked it with a key no one had. Doctors ran tests. The Forrester family clung to hope. Ridge tried to stay strong. Taylor begged for patience. But as the days passed, the truth became undeniable. Steffy's memory had splintered around a mysterious past. Her accident had wiped away years, but restored something no one expected. This wasn't selective memory. This was rewiring. She spoke about Tomas like he had just left the room. She described him in vivid detail, a boy with a chipped tooth, a silver bracelet, and a motorbike that always broke down. They had shared a summer together in Europe before she returned to the US, before she ever set foot in Forrester. A love that had never ended properly. A story never told. Not to Liam. Not to her parents. Not to anyone. And now, to Steffy, that love was all that existed. Liam tried everything. He brought photos, gifts, even old videos of the two of them together. He showed her their wedding, their baby's first steps, family vacations, laughter frozen in time. But Steffy would just stare blankly, then shift uncomfortably, then whisper, "I'm sorry," again and again. Hope and pain collided in Liam's chest until he had to face the truth. He was fighting a battle against a ghost. A man who had vanished from Steffy's life before anyone had ever known her name. A man whose memory now stood between him and the woman he loved. And so, Liam made the hardest decision of his life. He stepped back, not out of defeat, but because he needed answers. Real answers. Not guesses, not psychology, not empty reassurances. If this Tomas was real. If Steffy's mind had truly anchored itself to a forgotten chapter, then the only way forward was through the past. He started digging. First through her old school records. Then her early modeling portfolio. He contacted people from Europe. Friends she hadn't spoken to in over a decade. Slowly, painfully, the pieces began to form a picture. There was a Tomas. Tomas Evaldi. Italian-American. Raised in a small town outside Siena. They met during a Forrester promotional tour when Steffy was just tagging along, a teenager with no idea who she'd become. The relationship was never official. They disappeared together for a summer, then she returned. Her father kept her focused. She moved on. Or so everyone thought. Tomas, it turned out, had never really left her heart. And now, after the accident, he had returned, at least in her mind. What shocked Liam the most was what he found next. Tomas had gone off the grid. No social media. No forwarding address. But there was one clue. An art gallery in Naples had listed a piece under the name T. Evaldi, a series of charcoal sketches titled Asterisk, The Girl in the Red Dress. Asterisk. Liam flew to Italy. When he arrived at the gallery, the curator confirmed it. Tomas Evaldi was alive. He had lived as a recluse, selling pieces anonymously, always paying in cash. But his art was unmistakable. And the girl in every drawing? Her eyes, her smile, it was Steffi. Every piece screamed of longing, loss, unfinished love. Back in LA, Steffi had started walking again, eating, laughing sometimes, but not with Liam, not with anyone familiar. She asked about Tomas daily. She wanted to know if he had ever written her, ever called. Ridge tried to explain the past. So did Taylor. But Steffi didn't listen. She didn't believe them. She believed her heart. And that heart told her Tomas was real. That he was waiting. That everything else. Liam, the company, the family, was some strange dream she had yet to wake from. Liam returned from Italy changed. He had met Tomas. He had spoken to him. And Tomas? He had never forgotten Steffi. He had drawn her face from memory for years. He had searched for her once, briefly. But when he found out she was married with a child, he disappeared again. Out of respect. Out of grief. He never stopped loving her. And now Liam was forced to admit a cruel truth. For Steffi to heal, she might need closure. She might need Tomas. She might need to see him again, to understand the difference between then and now. Between fantasy and reality. Between memory and love. He brought Tomas to Los Angeles. The reunion was quiet. No cameras. No fanfare. Just a room, two people, and a decade of silence broken by one whispered word, Tomas. Her eyes lit up. It wasn't passion. It wasn't drama. It was recognition. Her mind, still fractured, had found its anchor. They spoke for hours. About Sienna. About the lake. About the night she almost drowned and he pulled her from the water. About promises never kept. But as the conversation stretched on, something started to shift. Steffi grew quiet. Her eyes clouded. She began to cry, not from joy, but from something else. Something deeper. Loss. The fantasy was breaking. She looked at Tomas and saw someone older. Tired. Kind, yes. Familiar. But not the man she remembered. And when she looked past him, her eyes caught a photo on the table. Her and Liam. Their wedding. Their child. And something inside her stirred. It was faint. But it was there. Tomas reached for her hand. She took it. But this time, she pulled away first. I don't know where I belong, she whispered. And that was the beginning. The journey back wasn't instant. It wouldn't be easy. But it had started. The illusion was fading. The past was giving way. And in the distance, Liam stood. Broken but waiting. Because he hadn't brought Tomas to take Steffi back. He had brought him so she could move forward. So she could remember who she really was. Romance on the water, fashion on fire, and rivals in Capri ***. The sun rose over Capri, casting golden light across the sapphire water as excitement buzzed in the air. For Forrester Creations, this wasn't just another fashion show, it was a defining moment. Italy had long been a backdrop for passion, betrayal, and rebirth, and now it was once again the stage for drama that would stretch from the runway to the heart. On this particular Tuesday, everything was in motion. Eric Forrester was orchestrating a fashion spectacle atop the glamorous rooftop of La Canzone del Mare. Brooke Logan was gliding toward destiny on a private boat ride with Ridge Forrester, and Nick Marone was preparing to crash everything with a plan that could shatter it all. Preparations for the show were meticulous. The rooftop terrace sparkled with anticipation as models rehearsed their final walks, stylists made last-minute adjustments, and photographers circled like bees drawn to blooming roses. The event was not only a showcase of the breathtaking collaboration between Forrester Creations and renowned Italian designer Luisa Beccaria, it was also a public relations coup, promising to reignite the prestige and artistic edge of the brand. Every element was curated to perfection, from the flowing champagne to the Mediterranean breeze sweeping through embroidered silks and sheer chiffon. Eric Forrester, dignified and passionate as ever, took charge of the atmosphere. He walked through the staging area, stopping to admire the Beccaria gowns with a proud, almost paternal glint in his eye. The audience, comprised of industry giants, celebrities, and European elites, would not just be attending a fashion show. They would be witnessing a rebirth of legacy. Eric was determined to make this more than a moment. It had to be a statement. As the team prepared for the rooftop affair, Ridge and Brooke were already en route, alone, together, and surrounded by the sea. Their private boat cut through the water toward Capri, quiet except for the murmur of the waves and the undercurrent of their shared history. The moment was deliberately carved out of the chaos, and it was everything they didn't know they needed. Ridge stood near the helm, hand resting casually on the rail, watching Brooke as she took in the coastline. She smiled, not with triumph, but with recognition of the man, of the past, of something still alive. They talked about the early days, the years gone by, and the places Italy had taken them physically and emotionally. There was laughter, there were long looks. There was no mention of Taylor, no mention of obstacles. Ridge found it harder and harder to remember why he'd promised himself to someone else. His guard slipped. His voice softened. Brooke, aware of every subtle shift in him, let the silence work in her favor. Meanwhile, Taylor Hayes had returned to Los Angeles. Her absence from the Italy trip left a vacuum, a symbolic one Ridge could feel growing deeper by the minute. He had said the right things, made the right gestures, promised loyalty. But Italy had a way of peeling back all pretenses. And Brooke wasn't asking him to choose. She didn't need to. She simply reminded him, wordlessly, elegantly, what had always been there. Back on shore, Eric prepared to deliver his speech. The rooftop was now bathed in afternoon light, a runway stretched like a painting across the marble floor. The first guests arrived, dressed in high fashion, sipping Prosecco, waiting for the show to begin. Eric took the microphone. His voice, full of pride and conviction, welcomed everyone and celebrated the bond between art and tradition, between Forrester creations and Italian elegance. He raised his glass. To legacy, to beauty, to love that never fades. As the fashion show launched in full splendor, models emerged wearing Luisa Beccaria's dreamlike collection, lace, silk, floral embroidery, transparent veils dancing in the breeze. Applause echoed with each reveal. Cameras flashed. But the real spectacle was unfolding off-runway. Nick Marone was in Capri. And he wasn't just here for the show. His presence hadn't gone unnoticed. Word traveled fast. Brooke had heard the whispers. Nick was here, and he wasn't keeping a low profile. He had secured his own boat, his own villa, and made sure every passerby knew he had something special planned for Brooke Logan. His confidence wasn't just arrogance, it was strategy. He'd seen Ridge fall in and out of commitment before, and this Italian backdrop, with its romantic haze and long nights, was ripe for déjà vu. Nick was counting on it. He waited until just before the show began to make his move. He reached out to Brooke, a message delivered via one of the hotel's concierges. "Join me after the runway. Same place as last time. Just you and me and the ocean." She read it once, folded it quietly, said nothing, but Ridge noticed her change in expression. He noticed everything, and the old jealousy, never far from the surface, began to crackle. He tried to stay focused, to keep his mind on the stunning designs before him, on the crowd, on his father's joy. But Nick's shadow lingered. The show ended with thunderous applause. Eric took another moment to thank the crowd, but it was clear his eyes kept flicking toward Ridge and Brooke. He was still playing Cupid behind the scenes, still believing in the inevitable union of the two. Eric wasn't just hoping Ridge would come to his senses, he was gently nudging fate along. He had arranged the boat ride, encouraged the private time, and now all he could do was wait. Ridge pulled Brooke aside as the crowd thinned. He looked at her with suspicion. "Nick sent you something, didn't he?" Brooke, ever poised, didn't deny it. Yes, he did. What did it say? He wants to see me. Ridge's jaw clenched. The tension returned like a wave slamming into rock. Are you going? I haven't decided, she said, knowing full well that saying nothing was saying everything. Later that evening, as twilight painted the sky in coral hues, Ridge stood on the balcony of his hotel suite, staring across the bay. He could see two boats drifting off in the distance, one of them Nick's. And he didn't know whether Brooke was on it. Brooke, in truth, was still at the hotel. But she was thinking, calculating, weighing the years with Ridge against the unpredictable magnetism of Nick. Ridge could feel her slipping and didn't know how to stop it. Italy had opened the door. The fashion show had been the spark. And now everything was in motion, desires, rivalries, second chances. Capri was no longer just a scenic stop. It was a battleground dressed in silk and sunshine. And the war had only just begun.